evening and welcome to this session. This is going to be better because actually I had this session 1.5 hours or like 2 hours ago with the exec community. I encountered one annoying, unexpected issue. So I'm hoping that I believe this will be much better because I figured out a way to bypass the issue. So it's Python for data analysis. And unlike most of the sessions people do, when I see people do Python for data analysis, they are doing dummy data that has no relation with what people typically face in the companies or in the real world environment. They are using things that are almost neat, and then sometimes people even are typing they want to talk about pandas and they are typing out the values right on the screen. They are not connecting to any data. For me, there's never been a way to learn. The best way to learn is to get a scenario that is as close to real life as possible and then work on it. It might look a bit like throwing the learner into the deep end, but as long as one can explain it methodologically, people understand things. It might take time to sink in, but they understand that, oh, this is the approach to always take. So that's what I'm doing, and this is an adaptation of a real world project for me. So unfortunately, it's confidential. I can't mention too much about the client and the stuff I did, but this thing I'm showing you is something that was a big deal for a client that I did this for. So this is brought to you by your BizEdge and MHS Analytics. We are a training company, consulting company, Excel, Power BI, financial modeling, SQL, Python. If you need any training, you can reach out to us. I'll post our links. And also we have online resources that you can take advantage of. They are the digital download free, as you can see, free templates you can use. And also there are classes you can register for. MHSs are not American ham, so you can also reach out to MHS Analytics if you are in Canada or US, or, if that time zone works better for you. Okay, so I'm a Microsoft MVP, and I'm going to be taking us through this session. I will share my connect. I hope I remember to do all of that because I want to actually make sure I finish this within 1 hour, so I might not remember to share all those links. So let's go into the demo right away. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and share a bigger screen, like one that will make things easy for you to see. So let me stop sharing this one. Then I share a different one. Yeah, share this one. So what are we going to work on? It's the scenario that I've created is one of where there is a company that they have system generated transaction records. So I'm opening it to, something like this. So these are system generated. And as you can see, the format is, this is the format it comes in. Let's just keep it that way. And what they want, what you as a data engineer, someone who is able to use Python to do data analysis, what they expect from you is to create, so this is, let me just remove my scratch work, is to create is to structure them and put them into a DB like this, right? Okay. So you will see that this is a bit flattened. What do I mean by flattened? It means that let me just scroll down a bit. Good. You see this barbecue chicken, Billy Fish stick, all these things are on row 2. They are the products. So we will have to combine them, normalize the table, and make all the products come into one column. Similarly, for this you see at the topmost, which are showing as regular, premium, those are the brands. So again, we will have to do some transformation to make sure the brands, show up in one column. So how are we going to achieve all of this? That's what we want to do with Python. And I'm going to even take it 2 steps further. I will do it in such a way that this should not have been here. I will do it in such a way such that as you can see, there's a folder for the sales table, right? So all of these older files. We will do it in such a way that the Python will loop through each file and do the same transformation. So we will not be hard coding, which means as the company has more branches, our script, our Python script will always transform all of them. It's not going to be hard coded to any specific file. So I'm going to, let me cut this away from here. This is not supposed to be actually. So cut. And I'm going to paste it here. Okay. Because there should be nothing in this place apart from the raw data. All right, so let's do the work itself. I'm going to create a new empty window. So I use PyCharm. I'm going to come here, new project. Let me bring to view what I'm doing so that you see. This was the artifact from the class I just finished that had issues. So this just didn't work the way I was expecting. So I'm going to okay. We are going to put it in the folder. So I already have a folder that will house it. It's called Python demo. Okay. And then I specify that it should use my Anaconda interpreter, Python 8.3, that's tied to my Anaconda environment. So if you have Anaconda, it's just better you just point it to the Python from the Anaconda installation. So you can leverage all the data analysis libraries that was installed as you installed Anaconda. All right, so it will ask me, it notices there are some stuffs there. I'll say yes, yes. Then so that we have a clean workspace, I'm going to say new window. Now you will notice that I'll just drag this one out of view so that we don't get confused. Then you will notice that in my case, if you have any questions, please feel free to put in the chat. You will notice that I'm using PyCharm. There is no rule as per what you must use. I'm not going to say like PyCharm. These are just IDE, tools. The script is what is important. So you can use what you are familiar with. If you prefer to use the notepad, notebook, Jupyter notebook. Yeah, for some reasons, I never really enjoyed it, but I know that in courses in teaching students, sometimes it's better because you're able to explain, you're able to run a cell, you're able to run cell one at a time, so it's nice for learning. But when it comes to deploying your work in a live project, you will eventually need to use a proper, extract your code out as a simple PY, not an IPNB. Because when you use the notebook, the format is going to be different from a Python script. It will be mixing the Markdown and the Python. So eventually, you still need to learn how to use something different from a notebook. I would recommend that you do Visual Studio Code because that's becoming it's becoming like the Google Chrome. All these other ones are now becoming like Firefox and Internet Explorer. So you want to use the one that everybody now is using. For me, I still use PyCharm. I also use Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to create this. You will notice that it has picked my folder. That was what I did. I pointed it to create the project within this folder. So this is the folder where the raw data is. These are all the branch by branch data. These are like I showed you, these are transaction data from the branches, but they are not properly structured. We need to transform them. Then I also have one more table. This is a table that has information on each branch. So branch, what the branch ID is and who the branch manager is. Okay, so that's also something nice we're going to be using to enrich our data so that in essence, we'll be picking some things from here. For every single, when I'm working on Abuja, I'll have to go and pick what the branch ID will be from here. And if we even need the branch manager, maybe we'll do that too. Okay. So if it was Excel, you'll be doing VLOOKUP. If it was Power BI, you'll be doing some relationship and measures. So I'm going to minimize this. Minimize this. I'm going to put the code in here. So I'm going to create a new file. New file. I'm going to call it sales loader, but it's going to be a Python file. So .py. Yes, I'm sure. Okay. So with that, I should be able to see it here. I should be able to see, this is it. So I'm going to go into it. It is empty right now. So I'm going to go into it and all right. So let's start gradually. Let's start procedural. Let me call it that. Let's start in a procedural way. So what do I mean by procedural way? I'm going to start with like problem solution. So number one is we have a file that is like this, right? I want to load it in. So let's start with, I even want to bring in what's in this file. So as usual, you need to import, import the libraries you need, necessary libraries. Maybe I should just turn on my camera now that my daughter is asleep. She's been giving me a tough time. Let's see what it looks like. Okay. So the libraries we need pandas. Pandas is going to enable us to read the files. So I'm going to import it as PD. That has become like an industry notation for pandas. I'm also going to need NumPy because at some point I will want to replace any null values, empty rows, and NumPy will help me with that. So in like NumPy not as a value. So I'm going to say as NP. Then I'm also going to import what are we? I will still attempt to show you the original plan I had, but it didn't work well, so I will have jettisoned that plan. So I'm also going to import OS. So what this one allows me to do, I will be needing it when I want to do the automation to loop through the folder, to loop through this directory. So I will need to use a list directory, which is one of the functions from the OS library. Then I'm going to also import PyODBC because originally that is what I use to push data into a DB. But I faced problem. I couldn't resolve the problem, so I won't take you through the same pain that others went through. Then I'm going to import date time. I need this to extract the date that I run the script so that I can populate it in the DB as this was the date the record was modified or was, updated, stuff like that. So in fact, if I want to make my code shorter, I could just say from date time, import date time. So but for now, let's not worry about that. So I'm going to start with the primary thing, reading the Excel, reading the Excel file. Okay. So to reading the Excel file, let me just maximize my screen where I used to monitor if anybody asks any questions. Okay. So to reading, let me even do something interesting. Let's do something different, right? From the approach I used to with the. So let's even do exactly what, I had in mind originally as the final solution. What do I mean? Let's read in let's look through all the files in this folder. Okay, so let's start with the file itself. So let's say, okay, set the full file, So set the folder, the sales folder, where all the sales records are dumped. So I'm going to say sales folder, and then I will say the sales folder is um, I'm using multiple screen. So the sales folder is, I can call it sales folder. Sales folder is going to be equal to, then I go and grab that folder address. So this is the sales folder. Oh, you will always have to change this backslash to forward slash. Otherwise, it will not work within Power BI. That backslash is like escape. So, okay, so I'm going to say go into this folder. I mean, like get this folder, but I also need to get the file. So this is the folder itself. Then I need to also get the list of files. Get the list of sales files in the folder. So this is why I needed this OS, because that's the library that houses what we allow me to do that. So I'm going to say sales files is equal to OS dot list directory. So it has this list directory. So now what will be the directory address? It is this already, this that we have gotten. Okay. So I am putting this in here. So with that, I now have the list of files. Let's even see what it will look like. So I can say print sales file. I can run this and let's see. So you see it has gotten from me in a list format all the all these files I have in this folder. And this is a autosave file because I have that file open. I have Abuja open. So you know Excel will always create an auto recover copy, auto save copy. If I close this, that one will disappear. So, but let's still leave it for now. We'll do error handling at the end. So let's move on. Now I have all the folders. What I want to do is, okay, remember that I also have a file that houses something specific like a mapping data to help me map the branch to the branch ID and branch manager. So I'm going to, at this point, load in that one too. So I'm going to say, reading the branch mapping file. So I will call it branch mapping. Branch mapping, then now I'm beginning to use another library, Pandas. So I will use Pandas to read the data. So read the file. Now you will notice I've been writing R. R stands for raw. Like it forces Python to read whatever I have put within the codes the way I've typed it. It should not think anything is an escape string or try to pass it through any other. It should just take it verbatim the way I've put it. Okay, so I'm going to go grab the address. So this is what I want to grab, this branch. Okay, and remember what I said, change all the backward slash to forward slash. Then this is where the data is branch. Okay, so this will read the file, but I always encourage people to indicate the sheet name. If you don't indicate sheet name, it will pick the first sheet, data in the first sheet. But if you want your work to be more robust, so that if someone creates another sheet and maybe they create it before this one, and the positioning changes, your code does not break. So based on that, it makes sense to indicate the sheet name. Okay, so maybe so that we see what this will look like, right? I'm going to put that in the print, and then we run this. Okay, so you see it has read the branch data, so that's good. Okay, and at this stage, we have we've done what will be common for everything. So I want to do a way to loop. So what I want to do is something like create a function, right? And tell the function. So I will say I'll create a loop that will be like, okay, for every file in this folder. So for I in let me use something more meaningful so that you get it. So let's say for every sales file. For every sales file in sales files, because this is the list of the sales file already. Okay, so for every file in these sales files, I'm just thinking it through. yeah, so this is the list. I needed to grab it from this list. So yeah, so every file in this sales file, I want it to run a specific function. So I can call the function, load records or load sales. Yeah, I can call it load sales. And then I will pass the sales file into. So this will now load the sales file for us. Yeah, it makes sense. So now I need to create the function. So let's say def load sales. Yeah, it will expect a file. Then we will now begin to do what will happen for every single file. So for every single file, what I want to happen is, let me think this through. I think number one is to even bring in the file data itself, like bring in the sales table. So we can call it sales table. Bring in the sales table. We use again pandas.read Excel. We will now specify the location of the file. So now I can't go and copy direct the way I've done this. Why? The reason is that we are trying to be dynamic. So I will say it should use this folder and the file name. So whatever file name you provided here. So it's going to be going through each file. So it will just be the folder plus the file, The way we saw it when I did that print, this showed all the files. So I will just do this. So this will get me the file name. Then the sheets. So the sheet name, let's go and check what the sheet name will be. The sheet name will be sales. So let's grab this. The sheet name is sales. Okay. Now, if I load this, by default, it will make this header. I don't want it to make it header so that I can do some transformation. Or if it makes it header, it becomes inaccessible for me for transformation. So I don't want it to be made the header. So I'm going to add
one more parameter and say header equals to none. My daughter is actually with me and she's trying to see it. So, yeah, we can check again what this will do. So we'll be doing one step at a time and be checking what the result will look like, and then we'll see what we should do next. So let's say expected to blank lines. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to debug and then load sales file, load each file, see reception. I'm going to reposition the function to come after I've defined the function. I'm going to call the function after I define the function. So I'm going to put I'm going to put a break here. Okay, so let's go check the debugger. Right, so let's run this and see, the console, let's see what it will print. Undo operations. No such file as demo sales. Okay. I need to add something here. I need to add a forward slash. So I'm going to rerun this. Okay. So let me close this so you're not distracted by that. So it's the same thing we've done. I should have added a slash here so that it does not just join the name to sales. That was what he was complaining about. I rerun this. Okay, let's check the console and see. Let's say execute. All right, so I think it's working. Yeah, so it's working. It has loaded the file. So I can begin to do more transformation. So I'm going to just stop this. So I'm going to proceed with, we've brought in the file. But I need to change the structure to be a normalized structure, something that will end up looking this way. Okay, so let's start with one important thing I need to do. I need to, let me explain it. I want to combine this information, this, and combine it to be here so that this will now become regular plus barbecue chicken. Then later I'll separate them. So I'm going to, I can add as a comment, concatenate the brand and product name. Then replace product name with that. So how I'm going to achieve that is I'm going to say that I will loop. So I'll create a loop for each column, right? So for each column in range will now be from this column 1 to column 16. So that'll be range 1 to but 17, because what will happen is range does not get to the upper limit. It starts from here and it stops before here. So it will stop at 16, which is what I want. And then I'm going to now say that it should do that. But what if new products are added? So if I want to factor in that this column will always be increasing, right? Like it will be dynamic. I can change it to, I can just instead of add coding 17, I can say length of the sales table dot columns. So that's how you get like number of columns, and that will get us, actually these are 17 columns, so that will be 17. So it works again, and this will be better to be robust. So you want to reduce as much add coding as you do. So for each column, starting from the second column is 1, first column is 0, as you can see. Starting from the second column, it should then do sales table, then index. So the way we pick an index is using iloc, like provide the row and the column number. So I will say for row 01, row 1, and what column now? The column will now be the specific column we are on. This column will be starting from 1 to 16. So for whatever specific column that we are on, it should take the sales table. You take the sales table again, iloc, but now you should take this column, this row 0, this column we are on, and then that means it will take this value, then you should concatenate it with this value. So you should concatenate it with what was previously in that row 1, in this case now, index row 1. Okay, so that's what I am doing, but I'm not just doing that. I want to also put in a separator so that I can be able to easily separate after. So I will say, okay, you know what, also had a separator, semicolon is what I want to use. Something I'm sure that will not show up in the name, in the entries within my columns. So that way I am sure I'm not destroying the data. So I think that one will do this for us. We can again run it and see what the outcome will look like. Okay, so see, I think it's done that. So the next stage is I want to now replace, you see this, I don't want this and this anymore. I want to use this exactly as my column name, and then I can now start my data from here. So what that means is I need to set the column names, headers, column headers. This new row values. Okay, and start the table from row. The table should now start from row 2. Okay, so I want to do those two. In that case, I'm just going to say sales table dot columns. It's going to be equal to this instead of me typing it again, let me just copy this. It's going to be equal to okay, let's just type it so that you get it correctly, because it's not exactly the same. So I'll just say sales underscore table dot iloc. So now I want to use all the rows, all the values in row 1. So which means row will be 1. Then for values, it will be all the values. So column is how you specify from beginning to end. So that is what I am now doing. So that will get that part done for me. If I run this, I think I can. I don't want it to go through all the files. That's why I'm still leaving the breakpoint. So you see, so this is now my column. So the next thing is to drop this. I don't need these 2 rows anymore. Okay, so we're going to do that. So I'm going to now say sales underscore table is equal to sales underscore table location start from row, let's see, start from row 2. Start from row 2 to the end and use all the columns. I need all the columns. It's just the row I want to omit. Omit rows 0 and 1. Let's just put it that way. Okay, so that's what I want to do now. I'm going to this. Let's run it and see what will happen. Yeah, it's working the way I want. Okay, so that's good. Now I have what I have the so I now have the brand and the product together, right? What I want is I need to separate them later on, which is not a problem. But more importantly is the fact that I want to unpivot this table. Let me try to show you what I mean. Let's print the sales columns. Okay, you see, these are all the columns it has. Whereas this is not the way our final result should look like. Our final result should just have brand separate, product separate, not like brand and product, like having these many. So I need to, like in Excel's lingo, on pivot. I need to unpivot this so that all of this we collapse into 2 columns, which will now be regular barbecue chicken, and then I will have value in front. So I'm going to do that, and the way to do that in pandas is using melt method of the pandas data frame. So on pivot the sales table. I'm going to say sales table is now going to be equal to an unpivot version, so a melted version of it. So it will ask me to indicate what will not be transformed. So we call it the ID variable, I don't know, maybe to call it independent or ID variable, but that's just what it's called, ID variable. This. So for me, it's just one. Is the date I want to leave alone. Nothing is wrong with the date. If we have more than one, then I can create a list and specify them within the list. So list is this a tuple. So I'll create a tuple. Sorry. Then if it is this is a list, this is a tuple, and this is a dictionary. Okay, so I only have one record, so I don't need to create a tuple. Date, and I'm going to say that that's the only thing I want to keep. It should transform every other thing. So when transforming every other thing, it should call the new, all this will be put into a variable field. So that's variable name. You should call it product. And then the values are like what all these okay, that's gone off. The zeros and ones, all these numbers, they will now be also in a dedicated column. So that one will be, let me just check the table. That will be sales quantity. Sorry if I'm a bit talking tiredly. I'm exhausted. I worked till midnight yesterday on a book. The publisher was on my neck. Then this morning I had to wake up to try to do a demo. And the only part I could not test was the part that broke during my session. So I think, yeah, so these are all the things I need to provide. Then one more thing is this, whenever there's always an index that comes bundled with with the data frame. So a lot of times I like to reset it. So I like to reset the index or ignore it. In this case, it will be ignore. So I'm going to ignore the index. Ignore index. If you don't reset it, very soon you will begin to come across issues where you will sweat and then you figure out that you find out later that it was because of index that the things you wanted to do didn't work out. So just eyeballing it. I think this is it. We can always check it again. So let me just run it as the pin. I don't have to be too. As long as I think I've written what is correct, I can run it and see if that's what comes out. Okay, this is looking like it. So you now see I have a product column. I have a sales quantity. I've done something wrong. This should be value name. Autocomplete. I picked the wrong one. So I'm going to rerun this. Thank God I did this to see. Okay, so I'm going to just run it. Let's go check. Yeah, so this is the value name. Good. All right, so we are getting there. Now, this is brand, and this is product. So I need to separate them out. So I need to separate out the brand. Out the brand and products. Just leave it at that. So sales table. And then I will, in the order that they will occur, there's going to be brand first and then product. Okay. And then I'm going to say this is equal to sales table. And currently it is product. So it's all under another core product. So I'm going to explode it or like split it. So I'm going to say dot string, then split method of string. Then I provide what the delimiter is, which is semicolon. Then I now provide what it should do with the outcome. So it should just expand equals to true. Okay, so let's check again to be sure that we have done the right things. I'm going to rerun this. So, and I think, yeah, it's looking like it. So we now have the old things broken out together. I mean, broken out correctly. All right, so we need to enrich the data. We need to, pull in the branch ID. Branch name. And let's even add branch manager. So now I will use the mapping stuff we have created. So sales table. Then let's start with branch ID. Branch underscore ID. Okay. Branch underscore. Looking at myself on the other screen. So this is going to be equal to, I'm going to now do the equivalent of the lookup, or it's called query, where I will say this table that we uploaded, then query the branch column, look for where the branch is equal to whatever, like now we're on Abuja is equal to Abuja, then get me the branch ID. It's very simple. That's the amazing thing. So all I just have to do is follow the correct syntax. So it will now be the table that we have loaded already. Remember, I've loaded the branch mapping, so I can just pick it. So this data frame, right? And then I'm now going to pull up the query method of it. So query, then what am I querying? Yes. I'm querying the what will match it for me? Let's just see. Yeah. The branch. So I'm querying the branch field is equal to, so you have to do twice anyway, is equal to the name of the file we are on. So that would be name of file. It's file. Not file. I need to knock off the XX because now you can see this as an XLX in it. So I need to knock that off. I think it's better we just do that right now before we put the file in it. So let me. I think I'll use a replace function. So I'll use a string.replace to just replace it with nothing. Okay. So I'll just say file name or branch name. Branch name is equal to file dot replace. So we're going to replace a dot xlsx with them nothing. I'm going to replace with nothing. We can test it. So with that, I can say get me what? Get me the branch ID. Get me this one. Branch ID. And then for it to work reliably, I'm going to convert it from that frame via pandas frame object to string. And I always tell you, always undo the index if you don't want the thing to do. Okay. So we can check out what this will look like before we go on and see if what we've done makes sense. And so we want this, stop and execute, to console. I think it's complaining. Oh, I know why it's complaining. See, I didn't use this. This is working as I expect, so this is good. So I should have used it here. So we'll have to rerun it again. So I need to rerun this. So here. Branches. Yeah, I need to put this in quotes. These syntax errors, they cannot do one. So let's rerun it again. Check. So now at least I'm not seeing an error. I see the branch ID. Okay, so making progress. So that is working. It's not just branch ID. I also need the branch name. So sales table branch. Let's check on the DB how we have branches. Branch. Okay, so branch is going to be equal to this branch name. Then we need branch manager. I can just copy this and make it branch manager so that I don't do too much typing. Branch manager. So all of this is the same. The only thing we need is that it should get us branch manager list. Okay. Let's test it. See for ourselves if it's doing what we want. Okay, looks good. So the next thing is we need to save this. So this was where I entered trap in the previous session. So I got stuck with my original intention of using a SQL, like making it run. Still want to try it, but I'm looking at time, so it's not going to. I don't want to make this, and we are recording it. So this was my original plan that we will run a PyODBC to populate the data into here. So in the interim, like what we can do, just so that you see, the process is, I'm going to, so I'm going to just use pandas to write it back, but original intention was to write to SQL DB. Well, for now, we write to a consolidated Excel file. So we will create a file. See this file, says consolidated file. I think it open on my other one. I'm going to delete everything in it anyway. I'm going to just wipe it clean. Why is it not editing? Oh. Okay, good. So you see this file is empty right now. So this is the place where I will just keep dumping all the records by the branches. So let's see that. I'm going to close this. So let's write the code to consolidate it into that one place. But like I told you, the sweet thing, the thing I did in the live project was to put it on the DB. It wasn't to save it back to Excel. So this is not, I tested this, it didn't give me too much problem compared to the one. I just still can't figure out what that thing is complaining about with the power, with the SQL. So I'm using pandas to write back. And then in this case, I'm going to need one more. I'm going to need one more OpenPy. Yeah, this one. OpenPy Excel. So I need that engine. So I'm going to say, okay, right into this location. Get into this file for me. The name of the file is sales consolidated. Okay. So right here, I wanted to write in an append mode, and I also want to specify that engine. So otherwise I will get I can't control, I might get an error if I don't put the engine I know that will definitely work. So the OpenPy Excel is a reliable engine to use. So I'm going to say, use this engine. Then append mode equals to append. And then now, if the sheet exists, I need it to be able to not complain. Otherwise, which makes sense. I was expecting that if I do append, you should know that the sheet is most likely going to exist. But unfortunately, this is another parameter that you have to specify. I think maybe because it can overlay and it can overwrite, where it will delete the sheet if it exists, which makes no sense if you're appending anyway. So overlay. So with that, I can set this as my writer anyway, so that things are a bit easier to write. So I will now say this is the writer that I will now use. If I don't know if you're familiar with width in programming. So with width, you can specify something. I need to put a colon in. Like I've done here, you can write something that you will use a parameter or like this, instead of me typing the whole thing every single time. I can now use this configured writer and say, okay, now I want to use it. I want to use it and say, okay, it should now take this sales table, right, and write it. So you should take the sales table and write to Excel using that writer I have specified. So that sales table to Excel and the writer I have specified, and the sheet name will be, I think it's sales. I call it sales. Sheet name will be sales. Okay. So let's check if it works. Okay. I'm going to run this. Okay. No errors so far. So I'm going to go and check the file and see if there's any data in it and see what the data I want is. This is keeps opening on my other screen. But as you can see, there's now data in it and there is Abuja in it, and it stopped at 591. So we're going to attempt to keep running it and see if it adds up the other ones. So like now it should add Bini, right? I'm going to just continue the running. So if I go check, I'm hoping that I should see Bini in it now. Yeah. Now I see Bini already, see? That's overwritten the one that was there. Maybe overlay is not the right option. Let me just check let's check it together. So if you think you've used the wrong option for something, you can always just copy it. And then go online, check the documentation, and see all the possible options and see which one you should have used. So let's just put here. And okay. So we said if sheets exist, none, right? If sheet exists, error, new, replace, overlay. Overlay right on there. So that first remove possibly on top of the other existing content. That's what is happening. I don't want it on top. So that's another thing I have to figure out what I need to change. I need to know. So let's see. What's the other option I was able to provide? Use to write or append. Append does not work with A. Let's just say that I search online and say pandas to append without writing on previous data. So probably there'll be one more way to tweak it. So this is how whenever I do something that I think I've done correctly and I'm not seeing what I'm expecting, this is how I go to check. And this has nothing to do with the question I'm asking. And append. So let me see how many more minutes we have. Let's just get it done since we're at the end already. Okay. Yes. If she doesn't, yeah. This makes sense. I don't understand what the person is saying, but we've done this part, so this has nothing to do with what we have done. Okay, so if sheet is in div, okay, if sheet is not in div, then it should create a sheet one. Okay, but then how does it append? If I don't see any meaningful answer, we will just leave it there. So maybe that would be something anybody can go to fix by themselves. So any questions from anyone? Sheet exists replace? No, we are not replacing. Let me just quickly browse through all these other responses and see. Maybe we'll be lucky. This person is already facing the same problem. He wants to append to the bottom, which is what I want to do. Out of the box. I don't know which out of the box. Because in my own case, I don't have that happening. To check this. This will specify it, and if you don't know. So they are making it look like it's a code problem, which led to just bring the different. So someone says maybe we should use CSV. Okay, let's try CSV. So CSV. I'm just going to stop this, comment this, comment this, comment this. So attempt to CSV approach. Let me just see all the options I need to set. Okay, so we're going to do sales table, and then we're going to CSV, and we are going to provide the file path. It will be a CSV file path. CSV file path. I'm going to say mode equals to append index equals false. Now we don't bring in the index data. And let's do this and see for ourselves. This already seems to be similar to what we did here. So let's try this. So I'm going to run this. Run. Let's go check. Created a CSV. We should see Abuja in this. Okay, but that looks good. I'm going to close it so that I don't create any conflict. Then I run this again. So it has gone to Enugu. Then let's go check. I think this works. I can see the file size has increased. Yeah, so this is equally good. Let me just check that it did not duplicate the header. Row 5 something. Okay, it included the header. Let's try to specify header equals none and see. Header equals none. Then let me close this. In that case, I might need to leave the header in the data itself and save this and close and run it. Let's try this. Okay, so let's go check. Let's even run it once more so that we will have 2 branches already in it. Then I go here. This seems to be wrong. Save. Can't find the data. Oh, it's there. It kept a marker. So it kind of kept remembering. So what I'll do is I'll delete this entire file so that it will have to start all over. It won't keep a marker to remember which one is. But I need the columns. Let's just check. Okay. I'm going to don't save. Going to actually need to copy out the columns. Yeah. Copy out the columns. Just put it somewhere. Then close this. Save. New file. Yes. Good. Copy this here. Save. Close. Close. Here. We run the entire thing. Okay. So I now go check in here. Yeah. Okay. Probably should not have saved anything there. But I think it worked, but then it did something. So I think for the first time it will save. So it makes sense. So when you don't save, when you just delete it entirely, and then we'll rerun it. Rerun. Sorry if I'm just trying to be a perfectionist. I want to just make sure it is working. Since it's just minor tweak. It's working the way that makes sense. Okay. I have no idea what more to do to it, but Good. So it is appending and problem solved if you ask me. Any questions? So I can maybe just remove the keeps working. So this one is not a problem. It's the auto save file. So that's a good one. So it's done. Okay. Any questions from anyone? At this point, I'm just going to end the session. But at least we've seen the key thing I wanted to show, and this is done. You see the file size 332, and maybe if I'm able to fix what I was facing as an issue with this one, I might do a blog post or something to let you know how to use that approach. But thank you very, very much. I've used 21 minutes beyond the end time, and I hope you found this useful. Let me just post the final codes in your in the chat in case you want to Fortunately, you will also need to create the files for you to be able to use them. But at least you will see all my transformation steps. So thank you very much and have a wonderful week ahead. Thank you. Bye. To me in this session.